This story took place in Sylhet, Bangladesh, and was experienced by my uncle, who was around 20 at the time. My uncle and 4 of my other cousins went on a fishing trip, and by the time they started making their way back to the village, it was getting dark. As there is very little street lighting in the rural areas of Bangladesh, and the journey back home was a few hours' distance, they decided to set up camp and continue their journey the following day. They decided that 2 members of the group would stay awake for 3 hours each and then rotate to keep watch over the fish and equipment as well as their own safety. My uncle was in the first group to sleep, so after 3 hours, he and one of my other cousins woke up to keep watch while the others slept. The cousin who was meant to keep watch with my uncle at the time was feeling very drowsy. My uncle requested that he got some rest and he could keep watch by himself. While keeping watch, my uncle heard a sound coming from nearby bushes and trees. Assuming it was a stray animal attracted to the fish, he went with a stick and poked the bushes, and the sound stopped. When he turned away, he heard the sound again and was curious as to what it was and where it was coming from. He went through the bushes and found a small clearing with a very tall tree. On further observation, my uncle noticed a figure of a woman sitting at the top of the tree. She had long, dark hair, which cascaded all the way down to the bottom of the trunk. She had pale skin and was of a thin build. My uncle, who is a quick thinker, grabbed the woman's hair, as he knew she was not a human being, but a jinn. Jinn refers to a ghost or demon commonly seen in rural Bangladesh, and he knew if he did not act fast, he and the others were not going to make it to the morning. A jinn's hair is its weak point, and if a person can grab hold of it, the jinn is powerless and cannot harm the person. The woman instantly screamed when he grabbed her hair and started pulling away, but my uncle clenched his fist and did not let go. He knew if he did, he would regret it. The jinn begged and pleaded with him and said she would make him rich and powerful if he let her hair go. But my uncle clung on with all his strength. After a long time, the jinn gave up, and my uncle, who was really exhausted, fell asleep with his hands still clenched on the jinn's hair. He woke up in the morning and found all my cousins surrounding him, staring at him, looking very confused. When he looked up at them and asked why they were surrounding him, they pointed at his hand. He looked down and saw a dead crow in his hand, jet black, like the jinn's hair he had been holding on to all night long. This story took place a few years ago when I was working at my old job in London, England. I was a manager there, and the company I worked for helped people gain skills and find employment. A woman came into the office, and the receptionist had her fill out the application form to complete the course. Part of the registration was made up of an initial assessment on the computer, which would determine the level the person was working at, so we could see their strengths and weaknesses. The woman was sat at the computer, staring at a blank screen for a long time, and it was getting late. As the office was closing shortly, the receptionist asked the woman if she is happy to come back at a later date to finish the assessment. The woman did not respond and continued to stare at the blank computer screen. The receptionist then came to me and asked if I could speak to the woman and inform her that we are closing the office. I went over to her and asked if she's okay and let her know that we are closing shortly. She asked if she could speak to me privately. I accepted and took her into my office. The woman opened up and started talking to me about how her husband recently died and that he often visits her, especially at night. I thought these claims were extremely strange. I found myself just nodding and making minimal conversation as I wanted to get out of the office and enjoy the rest of my day. The woman then said something which made me freeze. She said her husband was now in the office with us. I noticed her looking over my shoulder, and I instantly felt the room get colder. I could feel sweat on my forehead, and my hand was trembling. I had never been so scared in my life. I quickly texted the receptionist under the desk and told her to come to the room and say there had been an emergency and I needed to leave. She listened, and the receptionist came to the room and told me I have an important phone call I couldn't miss, to which the woman replied, she is happy to wait for me. I told her the office is now closed and we need to leave the building as the cleaners need to come and do their job. She finally left the office, taking the coldness with her. I went to security and informed him to never let her back in if she was ever to come back, but she never did, and I never saw her again.